Hi, I am Brett G.
And I'm Jim D. And this is Chatterbox.
Chatterbox.
What's our subject this
So, what
I said, what's our subject this week?
subject this week? Interior slash unseen detail. Do or do not.
Oh
So,
boy.
let her
Go
rip,
ahead. I'm
Jim.
sure you know where I stand.
Well, I think we stand in kind of the same places. I'm just, at times I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Um, we've talked about it before, and all this interior detail and painting stuff that is, you know, inside of a fuselage or inside of even a tank or something like that. And just how necessary is it to deal with all that stuff? Like, you got all these interior kits nowadays for all these armor kits that are coming out these days with full interiors, the Tigers, Panthers, Shermans, whatever. They've got full interiors on them. And I remember I even had a Bradley, M2 Bradley, to the old Tamiya one that came out in the 80s. It had an interior in it. I mean, it was like super detailed, but there was a pretty nice interior on it. The only thing it didn't have was an engine. Right. And, you got all this stuff, but are you really going to see it or are you not?
Right. Well, I guess I kind of, for me, it's a waste of time. And but there's exceptions, which is, it's, gray areas everywhere for me. But so, I don't know, 10 years ago, I built the Trumpeter 148 scale FW200 Condor. And it's no longer with us because it fell off the ceiling, but it had, they built those things as mail planes and then tried to turn them into airliners. And so anyway, when they turned it into a patrol bomber, they gutted the passenger compartment, mail compartment, cargo compartment, whatever you want to call it, and put a series of 7 very large fuel tanks. And that kit had all those fuel tanks and everything in there. And I built all that, put all that in there, and it's got, one of them, the old clear acetate instrument panels with the dials, on the acetate, and all of that stuff. And I did all that, by the time, anyway, I got the thing buttoned up, and literally the only thing you could see was the seats and the back bulkhead. That was it. That was it, and that was really the last time that I really kind of went all out on an interior on an aircraft, except for, the B-29 that I'm building now, right? And I'm doing all this photo etch, but this is, this has a purpose. This is an exercise. This is all about the photo etch,
right?
I started this 6-7 years ago to prove that photo etch wasn't magic or voodoo or whatever, and anybody with a sharp knife and a file and some super glue could do it.
Yeah.
But again, there's a whole, so I don't know, you can see that there, but the bottom line is this area right here, where that last cutout is for the front glass, for the front, is where this bulkhead is. This bulkhead right here.
Yeah.
So all of this in the back here, the only access you have to it is through this little bitty window. So you're not going to see it. And not only that, but there's an entire gunner station back here that has this portal, one on the other side and one on top. And that's it. I mean, you have more access to that But so I know nobody's going to see any of it.
Right.
But like I said, that's serving a purpose. But for me, especially going forward, no. The armor kits with the full interior, I actually think that's I don't know, what do I want to say? I think that's good. I mean, I think that's because you can take the top off. And I remember I saw a guy that did a Stug years ago, and I don't know whose kit it was, but did the full interior and just the top of the fighting compartment lifted off.
Right.
And when it was on there, you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I mean, you could not tell that it was a separate panel.
Right.
But that was really cool. That was really cool. So
well, that King Tiger's like that, the one I built not too long ago.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool. I think that's cool. You know, I built, well, I didn't finish it because I melted it, but I was building an old Academy M10 with the full interior, which I just butchered, but that one didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because it had a full interior and it's a Sherman basically, right? So you put the topper all on. That's it.
Yeah.
It ain't coming off.
Right. Yep.
So yeah, I mean, that's, you know,
well,
my answer is it depends.
Well, you know, and that's kind of true too, because that King Tiger I built, the one that Patrick Schaefer sent to me, they had the I know it's incorrect, Porsche turret on it, the initial turret, and that thing. Now, I'm sure it would depend on the kit because, you know, it's got to be engineered really well, but that thing's the same way. I built it to where you can take the engine cover off the back deck,
right,
and you can see the engine. You can see everything that's going on in there. Well, almost all of it. I mean, the stuff that's underneath and down on the side you can't really see, but the top of the turret, you know, you can pull the turret out and you see the turret basket hanging down, so you can see in that way. But you can also pop the top off. Okay. Because it fits so well, just like you said, it fits in there. It doesn't look like it's supposed to come off. I mean, it fits that tightly, and especially once you get paint, you know, primer and paint and everything on it. I mean, it fits in there snug, and you kind of got to pop it out, but you can see all inside the turret and the inside of the turret roof. And then in the front, you know how they have that plate with the hatches. You can pop that off, and you can actually see down into the driver and radio compartment. And, you know, you can even see the final drives and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, you can take it apart. And if, you know, if you wanted to display it that way, even, you know, you could have the hole sitting there and you could have the separate plates off and like on stands or something next to it, kind of like you would have like a, say, a museum display or something. You know, I mean, obviously you're not going to do that in a diorama or anything, but, you know, so, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into it, but you can actually see it. Right. You know, it's easy to get into and see. Whereas with aircraft, like you're just saying, you know, you got, I mean, even on a kit that doesn't have quote unquote interior detail like what you're doing. Yeah. I mean, 75% of a cockpit you can't see, you know. It's like you do these photo etch, you know, straps for the rudder pedals and you do all this kind of stuff. And you know, but once you put it together, it's like, even if you, I mean, I doubt if you could fit a dental mirror in there to see it, even on 1/32 scale, you know? Right. But all that said, and like you said, there's exceptions. Part of the way, because, you know, when I first started getting back in the hobby and I see all these people doing all this stuff, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, that's dumb. Nobody's going to see that. Nobody's going to see that. Nobody's going to see that. Nobody's going to see it. You know, but then after a while, I started thinking, I thought, wait, there's thousands of people seeing it right now, right along with me on this computer screen. Right. You know, so I think in the context of the way that most models are viewed these days, if you want to do a full interior on a, you know, just like those, I saw somebody just the other day, I didn't know they did it. It was one of those Zukimura aircraft. Mm-hmm. You have to build the wings just like a wing. with all the cross members and
Yeah.
ribs and all that kind of stuff. And then you put
Yeah.
the skin on it. Well, nobody's ever going to see that. But you
When
see
they-
it if somebody has, you know, does like a photographic, you know, log of it. I heard that, and post it on, you know, a forum or on Facebook or something like that. Well, it's there. Or if they put it on YouTube like this guy did, it's there. So technically, once it's done, no, you're not going to see any of it, but you see it
Right.
as it's progressing and as it's being built, you know. So in that context, you know, yeah, you know, if you want to do it, more power to you, man. But
yeah. Spencer Pollard made a statement in that one interview where he said something to the effect of, you know, some people are building models to build models, and some people are building models to take pictures.
that's exactly it.
Yeah, you know, and
that's exactly it.
And as I always say, that's fine. There's room at the table for everybody. Do what you want.
Yep.
For me, it's not that I don't do, you know, it's not like I paint my canopies black on the inside. and you know, it's not that, but there's you know, I'm kind of, well, what did Chet Payne say 40 years ago? You know, if you can't see it from scale viewing distance, what's the point?
But
You know,
see, therein lies the difference again, though. Back then, the only pictures you were seeing were in magazines, you know, and so, you know, that was a much more viable, because if you were to tell somebody that nowadays, it's like, well, you know, you can't see it. Well, I can see it. You know, getting right up on it. It's like, well, yeah, you know,
you can't see it from 48 feet away.
Exactly. You know, it's you know, because that was one of the, and funny you mentioned Shep Payne, because that was one of the other things that I remember him saying in some of his books is like, you know, you've got this vehicle, and, you know, a tank or whatever, you having all these hatches open. Most of them are going to be, if you're having a hatch open, there's going to be somebody stuffed into it. So you're not going to see anything beyond the figure. And if you do, you know, his famous creative gizmology thing, you know, have a few things hanging down or some pipes or something like that, you know, to where it looks like something's going on in there, whether it's accurate or not, who cares? But there's something in there. It's just like almost every kit, even when I was building, you know, the old monogram kits, all of them had a rudimentary breech and all that inside the turret. So if you did have the hatches open, at least there was something in there you could see. But usually they weren't very detailed until much later. You know, Tamiya started getting, and that always cracked me up, is they'd go to town detailing out the gun and the bag that the shells fall into, like in a Tiger tank or something.
Right.
You know, all that stuff, but yet the rest of the interior of the thing, you know, there was nothing in there. It's like, well, that's cool.
You know, and I mean, for me, and I think I got this from the IPMS rule set years ago, but if I do open hatches, I paint the inside black.
Yeah. Well, that's the best way to do it, because, you know,
because then at least it's not tan or olive drab plastic inside.
You know, speaking of that, I think I just realized why they really did such a good job on the guns on the interior of the turret, because all the old school models, none of them had sponsons in them.
Right.
All that daylight showing up through there. It's like, well, you know, with all that daylight, you know, at least they could see something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, when we were kids, I mean, we just take that for what it was. Well, they must have been that way.
Yeah. Well, the first kit that I built that actually had a full interior was an old, at the time it was called Italieri, the way it was spelled, the old those old kits, and it was this was, good grief, this was junior high, so 76, 77, something like that, at a local hobby shop. now defunct, sadly. It was an Italian self-propelled gun from the North African campaign, and it was that real squat.
Yeah, that M1340 or whatever it was.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it had the gun that came out and had that kind of cone-shaped perforated thing on the tip of the gun, but it had a full interior in it, and that just blew me away. I was really stoked. But the nice thing is the top of those vehicles had huge hatches. I mean, just boom, boom, and the whole top was open, so you could actually see inside. You know. But, being my modeling skills back then, I didn't paint a single thing on it. It was tan inside and out.
Right. I think the first thing that I built that had a full interior was the B25H, the monogram B25H. No, that's not true. The first thing I would have had was the B17G kit, because I got that like the year after it came out.
Yep, I had that one.
But I mean, later on, that would have been when I was 11 or 12. So, but later on, like junior high school, somewhere in there, I remember I got that monogram B25H with the strafer nose on it. I actually have a sealed one in the stash, but and that thing was fully loaded on the inside. And I just remember being totally blown away by that.
Yeah.
But if I remember right, I mean, even to the point that it's got the gun, the cannon in there, even though it's all sealed up in the wheel well.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's really the first time that I remember it really making an impression on me.
Yeah.
Because, we were building the old Aurora stuff and whatnot. There was nothing. There's no cockpit. Even the early monogram stuff where you had the pilot, had the pin on his side, you glued him into the hole in the side of the fuselage, and that stuff. And that was fine, And
honestly, if you were to do that nowadays in a modern kit, if you had a figure you could just pin into the side, you could probably get away with it, because with a figure in there, you virtually blocked everything inside.
Sometimes, depending on the airframe,
like a P-47 or better yet, a F4F or something, with that little teeny tiny opening that you got on them.
Yeah, the cockpit inside is immense, but the openings, yeah. I don't know. I mean, that was really my first, exposure to it. I mean, I've talked about the C-47 before. If you leave the cargo doors open, you can look in there and you can see the seats and stuff. But why they have the latrine behind the bulkhead at the rear of the aircraft there's no window or anything, I have no idea. Why the B-29 kit has the bunks, the sleeping quarters behind the gunnery station where there's no windows or anything. I have no idea. Things like that. It's like, okay, unless they were going to do a visible version like they did with the B-17.
Right.
Because when they did the visible V-17, they actually had to add interior detail to the B-17 kit that wasn't there. The original mold didn't have a Bombay. There's no Bombay detail. They have some like rib detail and stuff in the tail and the vertical stabilizer that I don't think was on the original. I have an original. I'd have to go look at it, but so it's not crazy, in my opinion, to think that, well, maybe they, after that fiasco, they went, well, maybe we should just put all this stuff in there, just in case we do a clear-sided version.
Right. Yep.
But as far as nowadays, I don't know. Some of it's kind of out of control. This B-29's out of control. It's out of control.
That's a lot of words, man. That is a lot
You
of
know,
work.
I'm pushing through it, but I mean, honestly, I'm not really having fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things I want to complete it and get it done.
Yeah.
But I
Um,
mean, the reason it's been sitting there for 6.5 years.
right here. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Oh man, is it gonna work? Well, whatever. It's the inside of the Bombay on this thing, the mosquito.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at, okay, I got to paint that. I got to get, I'm going to tape that off so I can spray that. And I started looking, I thought, wait a minute. I'm doing the photo recon version. I don't got to paint anything inside. The only thing I painted was the cameras, because you can actually see the lens through the holes in the bottom here, the plexiglass covers or whatever they were. Same with this one here, But other than that, there's no need to paint any of the rest of that stuff. I mean, if it was going to be open, showing the bombs, then yeah. But otherwise, it's like, yeah, there's not much sense in that.
That thing disappears when you move it off from the center of the screen.
That's weird. Oh, it's magic. It's a ghost. It's a ghost. But this is another example, though. There's a lot of nice detail inside of this cockpit.
That's a nice kit.
With the radio compartment and all that, and then in the nose and all that. And at least in this, because there's these two windows on either side of the fuselage and the clear front, and then this type of, instead of it just being like say on a B-17 or something where it's just those windows, yeah, you've got a whole thing, a greenhouse on top, so you can actually see. That's why I went ahead and did the pilots. I thought, well, you'll actually be able to see them, not that you really want to, but they're in there so you can see them. But the rest of it, So I point being, on this kit, I think they did an adequate job of supplying detail,
right,
for what you're going to actually be able to see. Right. But like that thing you're doing, and even that B-17, the B-17G, I remember building that thing, and oh man, I had a blast. I was doing the inside, and I was doing wood texture and everything on the plywood panels and all blah blah blah. And I put it together, and man, I'm looking in the little window that's all kind of wavy because it's the old school plastic. It's like, oh, I can't see a thing, man.
Right.
But
right.
That's just,
I got the Revell F model, and the thing with that is, there's no interior detail in it, and people will take and buy a G kit and take all the interior out of the G kit and put it in the F kit. And my thing is, something that big at my house gets hung. It's getting hung because there's nowhere to put it.
Right.
It's so nobody's, I mean, with the G kit, I think the interior detail in the G kit is more than adequate. I don't personally see any reason to add anything to it. And if you just kind of there's no reason in my mind to go crazy on the painting on it.
Right.
But you can see the bombardier station pretty good. You
can
see the radio operator station pretty good. The rest of it, but to each his own. But I guess it's one of those things for me where I'm over it.
That's it too. And you mentioned that Spencer Pollard deal. And when I was listening to that, I thought, you know what? This guy is explaining it in a way that it's like, I mean, sometimes, when I'm working on that stuff, I'm thinking, oh my word, this is just getting kind of, there's sometimes when I can let's just use a cockpit for an example. Sometimes, I'm building a cockpit, I'm doing all the stuff. It's like, I know it's never going to be seen, but I'm having fun doing it. I'm painting all these little details, putting all these little decals on. They're going to be somewhere you're not going to see them. The data plates, all this kind of stuff, and doing all, weathering on the floor way up by the rudder pedals that, again, you're never going to see. Painting up the guns that are going to be under a cowling, all that kind of stuff. But then there's other times when I'm looking at it, and I'm more interested in what the outside's going to look like, you know, the overall look of it. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, I could probably assemble this cockpit all in bare plastic and then spray it from the top. So you're going to hit everything that you see, take a paintbrush, paint the stuff that you can actually see, add some seat belts because, you know, you can see the seat, do a good job on the seat and the seat belts, maybe the sidewalls, again, depending on the kit, what kit it is. And the, you know, like you said, the airframe, otherwise just do it being buttoned up. You're ready to go. Let's get to the outside. That's the part I'm interested in.
We just have a guy in our club years ago that's pretty much basically what he did. He would build an entire cockpit up, excuse me, and primer it all in one piece, other than the seat, primer it all in one piece, paint the interior color, go back with a brush, paint the instrument panels and stuff, and maybe hit it with, you know, dry brush it and whatnot. And that was it. You know, and his thing was like, well, anything that you could see, you can get to with the airbrush.
Exactly.
Right. Well, yeah, it's like, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and he was fine with it. And I mean, he wasn't building monogram kits. He was building like you know, he's mainly into 32nd scale, but he was really into aftermarket, and he would even get I can't remember the guy's name that made all the 32nd, not a bunch, but he made some 32nd resin kits of like the Sea Fury and whatnot. I can't remember his name. Anyway, pretty highly sought after, you know. So it's not like he was lazy or not a good modeler or whatever. He was just choosing where he was spending his time.
Yeah.
You know, and
that's what I'm saying. You know, it's like, I'm not going to spend forever doing this stuff on the inside that you can't see, but I will spend a lot of time and effort on the outside, even the wheelbase. You know, if you got landing gear down, I'm going to go for that. But some of that other stuff, it's just like whenever I'm building and I got one coming up, whenever you're building like a German vehicle with the interleaved wheels, man, it's like you can't see anything on the hull behind those wheels and tracks, especially if you're doing something like a King Tiger and you've got all the skirts on it. You can't see anything, you know. So, you know, it's like putting all the mud and the dirt and the dust, and that, you know, that's a totally different topic. You know, how much weathering do I want to do on this kit? But, you know, going through all that, and then you put it together, and it's like, I can't even see it anyway. Why do you do that? You know?
Right.
So,
right.
Like, you what you can see, spend the time on it, you know?
Right. And like you're saying before, you know, like you said at the beginning, is even with the stuff that you could see, you know, how much of it can you really see? I mean, it's you know, you're talking about the straps on the rudder pedals. I don't think I've ever actually done that.
Yeah.
And I honestly, when you said that, I'm thinking to myself, have I ever actually looked into the cockpit of one of my builds after it's finished to see if I could see? I don't think I ever have, to see if I could see the rudder pedals.
Yeah. No, you know, on a 1/32nd scale kit, I'll spend time on the interior and stuff. Just because it's big enough that I can actually do it, you know, and it's, you know, I enjoy it for the most part. But on a 1/48 scale, but, you know, it's funny. I just talking about those rudder pedals, your target audience too, you know, like my target, you know, now granted I have my YouTube channel, but I rarely post. I mean, I'll post stuff on, I'm just now getting back on the Facebook thing and Instagram. You know, I've got my model thing on it, and I'll post a picture when I think about it. But, you know, like family members and friends that come over, it's like, oh, hey, that's pretty cool. You know, like I did that BU 181, the the German trainer. I did it in markings like the one that James Garner stole in The Great Escape.
Yeah, 131. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
built that one, and it's funny because there's it's a special hobby kit, so it was mixed media. It was mainly injection molded plastic, but it had a little teeny kind of like, I think like a couple of cylinders sticking out of the bottom of the thing was resin, and then it had some photo etch. And one of the photo etch parts is there's a screen behind the pilot and the passenger or co-pilot or student or whatever. There's a screen behind there. It's like a net, so they could throw their kit bags back there or whatever. And I forgot to paint it, so it's shiny brass, and not one person has noticed. I mean, they don't really know. Now if I were to show you, you'd be like, well, is that supposed to be brass, or or anybody else kind of in the know? But so I guess it kind of has something to do with your target audience as well. I mean, you could slap a bunch of stuff in there. And
I think you're safe to say a modeler would go, oh, you forgot to paint that PE. Yeah.
I got that thing all put together, and I worked on that stinking canopy and just got it special hobby kits. They're okay. I don't think I'd actively search one out after building that one. There was a lot of things I liked about it. And oddly enough, one of the things I did like about it is it didn't have locating pins on it. So,
a lot.
So do I. And so I was able to, glue that. I mean, the fuselage turned out great. The only thing bad about the wings is, they didn't quite come together in the back. There was a gap because the way it was molded, it kind of made it like this, instead of being flat together and a nice sharp edge, it was kind of like that. So I had to do a lot of work on that. But anyway, it was a special hobby kit, and I was really proud of the fact that I was able to get that canopy to fit so well. I mean, seamless. Got that sucker glued on there, and I was just like, yes. Went back a little bit later, and I looked. It's like, oh, what's that brass? No, because it's got a big canopy, and you can see it clear as a bell. It's like, oh man. It's like, well, I just won't say anything. I'm not gonna pop this thing off of here again and try it.
What about open top AFVs? I mean, how much is too much on my first experience with an open top AFV was the old Italeri Martyr 3 when Revell was selling them. Remember the Revell Italeri boxes?
Yep.
That was my first open top armor kit. And I seem to remember it was pretty good. I mean, it was a long time ago, but there's some guys. There used to be a guy on the Scale Model Addict forum years ago. Tony Lee, I think was his name. And he would do these like massive PE like rebuilds of the superstructure and everything.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Incredible. And the stuff is great, but it's like, wow, man, I don't know. Not me, especially not after this.
No. Yeah. Oh man, I don't remember who it was. It was a lady, some woman on some forum, I think it was doing a, US half track.
Mm-hmm.
And practically the entire body on that thing was photo etch.
Wow.
And the hinged lids or the hinged engine covers,
everything worked, yeah.
They hinged up, and I'm like, that's like these people that do these photo etch straps and stuff, or clamps for their German tanks with the tools, you know, and it's like, oh, look, it works. Well, good on you, bro, because the plastic ones work fine. I don't need it to work, you know.
Right.
You know, that brings me to another thing. Sometimes it's just like photo etch for photo etch sake, not always is a good idea. But
Right.
interior detail, for interior detail sake, or modified is not always a good idea. Example, I told you about in the interview my turnoff to the whole competition scene and club scene mainly.
Yeah.
Was when those guys, you know, kind of, you know, when I told them I didn't really want to join a club, I just kind of wanted to go to the contest, and it's like, you know, I was blackballed. I was canceled. That's what it was. I was one of the first canceled people.
Before canceling was cool.
Wow. I just thought that's awesome. See, I was doing it way back when. But anyway, this guy had done, you know, and it had some seats inside this vehicle. And oddly enough, it was some open top vehicle. I don't remember what it was, but it had seats in it. Well, he was real clever. He used real cloth to make seat covers. And I'm looking at him, and it's like, well, that's real dandy, but it like looks like all kind of out of scale, dude. I mean, the folds on the corner. I mean, if he'd have used tissue, okay, but you know, it's like, yeah, that's real clever and all, but it just doesn't look right, you know. But that's, you know, that's
I think the coolest thing with painting like fabric or uniforms or whatever was, okay, when Testers was releasing the Italy armor kits, and they had those really good instruction manuals.
Right.
And then you go to the back side, and it would give you all these tips on painting stuff. And it would have a section on painting figures. And I remember that's the first time I ever saw anybody mention adding talcum powder to your paint when you're painting a figure to flatten the color on the uniform to make it look like fabric. And I started doing that. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, my pop used to do that. I remember one time he busted out a little bottle of Testers enamel, the square bottle of Testers enamel paint. I'm like, what are you doing, Dad? It's like, watch and be amazed. And I was like, wow, you're the man.
Yeah.
You asked me about the first open top I did, other than that little, which really technically wasn't an open top, that little Simo Vinte gun or whatever it was. But I did the Tamiya Martyr 2.
Okay.
The one that has a kind of tall superstructure. And one of the reasons I remember it so well is it had like a mascot or something painted on the side of the side plate of the upper superstructure. It was looked like a little dude with a big mustache or something. It was like a little round circle, looked like something that had been designed at the Bauhaus, art school over there or something. But that was the first open top vehicle I did. And that was kind of cool because, I built it out of the box. I didn't know any better. I didn't have any photo references or anything, but it looked really cool because there was all kinds of stuff going on in there. But that's a case where it's almost not really interior detail when you think about it, because it's not, it's within the confines of 3 panels,
Yeah, I guess you're right. I didn't really think about that. I don't know. I guess to me, it's.
You can see in there really well, but what I'm saying is now again, it could be totally wrong, but building it out of the box, there was enough going on in there that it didn't just look like a flat floor with a post with a gun sticking off of it, it had enough detail to convey that, this had stuff inside of it, like ammo bins and, that kind of stuff. But
I remember the first time I ever built the old Tamiya STKFZ 251. The one that they're still selling at Hobby Lobby.
Yeah. Yep. Still.
Yeah, and that's 35 years ago probably. And that, and granted, I still don't know anything about what's on the interior of an STKFZ 251, but I remember building that and thinking to myself, there's got to be more in here than this. Because all it was the little driver's compartment and the floor, and then those bench seats. and that was
Yeah.
it, you know, and
Yep.
I'm like, that can't be right. You know, even as a kid, that looked wrong.
Yeah.
Um, and then the doors, the way the doors hinge on the back, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not buying that, but
Yeah. Well, just like the old monogram. They did the half track personnel carrier
mm-hmm.
that came with all the soldiers, every last one of them, perfectly upright, feet together, holding their rifle like this. You know, I mean, one master, and we'll put 8 dudes in there, all the same.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
but you know, had the opening door on the back, but just, I mean, they didn't even attempt making them look like benches. They were just like angular things going down the side.
right,
And then then there was the other one that had the twin 50 in the back.
right.
You know, the swivel around, and that's all it was in there. It was just that swivel
Right.
thing with 2 guns and a dude sitting inside of it. And the cab, super plain. You know, they kind of had these like molded blocks for seats, but you know, with the right person,
I did
they
see
could.
something. Yeah, I saw something. I mean, it's kind of on the same subject, kind of, sort of, I guess. I saw something the other day, and I was kind of like, I don't know, I was kind of like, well, that's too bad because it was like a Wesp or something,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really well done.
Yeah.
But the fighting compartment was covered with a tarp. So they built it and just put a tarp over
Oh,
the entire fighting. And I've seen that done multiple times. I mean, it's nothing new.
yeah.
Um, but I guess I was kind of like, oh, what a bummer, because it was really, really nice.
Yeah. Oh
You
man,
know,
that's
and I was
weird.
just kind of like bummed out. Felt like I kind of got ripped off.
Yeah, no
You
kidding.
know, it's like, wow, this thing's really nice. I want to see what's under the tarp. You know,
You know, the whole detail you can't see. Again, just to have stuff just for the sake of it. And I'm going to go back to like Panthers and Tigers and stuff like that. When you get a kit that is like ultra detailed,
mm-hmm.
sometimes to the excess. Like for example, you know, a lot of people will complain about, you know, Tamiya kits. Not so much. I can't even. I haven't built a Tamiya, a German. I can't think of one I've done recently enough to compare, but you know, used to. I mean, they were famous for just they molded the swing arms and axle was
Yeah,
molded onto the whole tub. You
yeah,
know, oh that's dumb and blah blah blah. It's molded around. It's like, okay, well, once you stick all those big fat wheels that interlink the interleaved wheels, you're not going to see a bleeding thing. And guess what? When you set it on the table, it's not going to rock crooked. You're not
stop.
going to have floating
Yeah,
wheels because you didn't make sure all the axles were lined up. You know, it's eliminating a potential problem, you know.
right, right,
So,
yeah,
you know, in a case like that, that's the manufacturer's deal. It's like, okay, Dragon, do you really need to make each one of these suspension components in 17 pieces when you could just mold it on a
yeah,
flipping hole and be done with it?
yeah. The what is it? Is it them that the those Sherman bogey assemblies are in so many parts? And I mean, you got the overrider thing and the idler and the overrider thing, and then you got, you know, the wheels and yeah. I mean, it's not really that bad, but it's just like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
What are we trying to do here? You know,
I
but look at
can,
what happened with was it DOS Works, when DOS Works popped on the scene and we're no, it was Dragon first did like a really super simplified Panzer IV.
right.
Yeah, and got rid of all that stuff and just kind of went back to the really kind of hardening back to the old Tamiya way of doing
Exactly.
things, where a lot of stuff's all molded together and stuff. And those things were flying off the shelves. It's like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
so we come full circle.
Yeah. Exactly. Man, it's just, some of that stuff, it's like, you know, is that all necessary? But, you know.
Well, and again, there's room at the table for everybody, you know.
Yeah.
It's good that there's so many choices, I think, but it's, you know, I'm less and less tolerant of engineering for the sake of engineering.
That's the thing, you know, it goes back to that photo etch for photo etch sake. It's like, you know, why? It's not necessary, you know, keep it.
Yeah.
But again, you know what though, in a way, it's just like we were talking about on our last Chatterbox. I say we as a collective group, we're getting what we have always wanted.
Reaping what we've
It's
sown.
not necessarily the best thing, but we're
Right.
getting what we wanted, you know.
Right.
And when you think about it, it kind of ties in, you know, if you give some, you know, new kid, you know, here you go, here's the Tacom King Tiger with full interior for your first kid, have at it. They're going to get about 5 minutes into that thing and be done. Yeah. If I'm going to do something like this, I'll just go build myself my own car, you know, from the ground up.
Right. It would be easier.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, so yeah. So in a way, we're finally getting what we always wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when I was younger and I didn't know any better. You know, I always thought that like an interior would be cool. That's why with that little Italian tank. Now that I love that thing. You know, I thought it was really cool to have an interior, but the first one that I was really stoked about, and I saw in the catalogs and all that in the magazines, and I didn't actually get one till like mid 80s, I think, was the Tamiya 125th scale Tiger tank. It had the full interior on it.
Right. The one you could even buy out of the Sears catalog.
Bingo. The very. Yes, I've got one of those.
Where is it? It's in here. The Chieftain. I actually saw a Chieftain kit for sale some time ago.
Yeah, see the Chieftain kit. See, I thought that was pretty cool too.
There it is.
Yep, there it is, man. And you know, I thought that was the coolest thing. I thought that was the coolest thing. I had one and I built it. And after I got done, I didn't know that much about German armor or anything like that. And I painted it all this off-white color, which was supposed to be, you know, winter camouflage, but it looked like it, you know, drove through a drive-through car wash. Instead of water, it was like white paint. I mean, it was just pure white. And I ended up blowing it up or shooting it up with a pellet gun or something. But my brother bought me another one, and I just built that when I got back into the hobby for one of Tactical Jackalopes.
Yeah.
Group builds. I got in on that, and I built it. But it was funny because, you know, in reading up on the kit, you know, I started doing research online, apparently. And after I did a little look at myself, and it's funny because I have a book that I was going to use for reference. Pardon my shiny dome there for a minute. It's in here somewhere. This book right here, the Tiger Tanks. Oh man, can you see it?
Yeah.
There you go. Well, it has inside. It has like a really good bunch of illustrations of the different crew positions. Oh, come on, baby.
Yeah, there you go.
The different crew positions inside of a Tiger tank. And I'm looking at those because I was going to use that, and I was going to super detail that 125th scale sucker. That's why I had it for so long, because it's one of those ones that I'll build it someday when I get better.
Right, when I get better.
So, yeah.
Just build it. You're never going to get better. Or
Exactly.
You're never going to be good enough.
Exactly. So I was going to detail the tarnation out of that thing. But when I started looking at it, the interior of that kit is pretty much all wrong. I mean, where they got all that stuff in there, I don't know if they just kind of peeped in and made some quick sketches or did a couple of Polaroids, and it's like nothing was the same. It's like, man, and missing parts, like major components. you know, because it was some
museum tank or something.
That's exactly what it was. It was a museum tank. And if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I think it was Tiger 131 at
oh, really, at Bovington?
Bovington. Yeah, but back whenever it was like kind of apart, you know, before they had started really digging in and restoring it. I mean, this is back in the late 60s. It's either that or one of those Aberdeen Proving Ground
when
tanks.
It got captured, right? I mean, it was brand new when it got captured.
Yeah, I don't know if they had some of the parts out to start restoring it or fixing it up, or it may have been a different tank. I never found out. I mean, well, it could have been one of those.
The intelligence teams probably took it apart.
Exactly. That might have been it, and they hadn't put everything back into it.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a mess though. But I rebuilt it, and I just used the parts that were there and, you know, painted it all up. I had fun with it because it's just, you know, Tiger tanks are pretty massive looking even in 1/35th scale, but this thing is just like boom.
Right.
But, you know, it was also designed. The kit was designed to come apart. As Shep Payne said, it peeled apart like an onion in layers. You could take the top off the turret, so you could see all that. You see the inside the turret. Take the turret off, see the turret basket, all that. You could take the whole upper deck off and see everything in that hull. You know, so it was designed with that very thing in mind. You know, I mean, it was funny because the engine, you know, when you took it off, you know, you're looking down at it, it's like, wow, all it is like, you know, that round, I don't know if it's an air cleaner or whatever that thing is in the middle, the two, what do you call it?
Cooling fan or something, isn't it?
Yeah, a cooling fan, I don't know. And then the valve covers.
Yeah.
But it's only about half an inch thick, and it's on a single post glued into the bottom of the thing. It's a total facade, man. Wow. It's like one of those buildings on the back lot at Universal. It's like from the front, it's like, yeah, it looks pretty cool. You look at the other side, it's like there's just nothing there.
It's a wall.
Yeah, it's like, oh my goodness. You know, they went to town on everything else, but the engine is just like this little flat piece of plastic. But you know, that one was designed for that. But you know, you get some of these newer kits that are actually designed to be glued together. When you get done, it's like, you know, you can peel a turd off and like look at it, but
yeah, like I said, I think that makes sense. You know, in those cases, I think it makes sense. I actually wish they would do a lot more different armor kits with interiors like that.
Yeah,
I would really be interested in some, you know, like some Cold War stuff.
Yes,
with interiors and
you know, I honestly think that they might, because, you know, they started out with seemed like they started, wasn't it to start out with the full interiors with Panthers is what with the first bunch came out. You know, Meng did one and TACOM did one, and, you know, then Ryefield did one, and then the Tigers, or it might have been reversed, might have been Tigers first, then the Panthers. Well, now there's, you know, Sherman's out there. There's some Lee, like Mini Art has a Lee kit and a Grant kit with a full interior on it. And I've heard those are nuts. I mean, because they do a lot of little parts. But
well, I mean, those things are, I mean, that's like a cavernous hull. I mean, what?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like a 7-man crew or something in those things?
I think so.
Something crazy like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you know, so they've done more, so maybe they will, you know, get into, you know, more kits and stuff, but I don't know.
You know, the other thing that would be neat would be something like, it would have to be a large ship, but something like an aircraft carrier that had all the different decks and you could pull them out.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Well, you know? Yeah, because I think, oh man, I don't know if somebody modified it or if it comes this way, like it's like a submarine or U-boat or something, that the whole side of it is
that's
gone.
The Trumpeter 48 scale U-boat.
Yeah, and it's got all the
different compartments and everything.
Right.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they got the crew. You could buy the crew.
Right. Make them all sweaty and dirty looking and stuff. Yeah.
but I mean, it's like 4 feet long or something.
Yeah, it's 148 scale. That's huge.
So I guess I guess kind of coming around to kind of summarizing, I guess from my point of view, is like it depends. For aircraft, it doesn't really work,
Right.
but for other things, it works great.
Yeah. Agreed.
For me, and sounds like for you too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Again, like I said at the beginning, when I was going to play devil's advocate, I think the exception is for those people whose primary goal and primary audience is either YouTube, Facebook, forums, whatever, where they're documenting every step and they're showing every cool little thing they did on an interior. For those kind of people, I mean, you always get, anytime there's a thread on stuff like that, you'll have the ones that are like, man, that's awesome. That's really cool. Oh, that looks cool. And then you get these others like, well, yeah, it's a lot of wasted work for something you're never going to see. Well, yeah, that's true, but don't shoot the guy down. I mean, then you'll get the ones that's like, too bad it's going to be, too bad it's going to be closed up, but yeah, it's really cool looking.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, I can look at it and go, wow, that's really cool. And also think to myself, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, bingo. Yep.
But that doesn't mean you can't do it and do a bang up job at it. And that doesn't mean that I can't appreciate that, because I can.
Yep. And I think, so in your summation of the whole thing, I'm the same way. Aircraft, not so much. And it's really starting to influence the way I do aircraft, especially, because having to scramble around my head and not really being able to put it into words, and then listen to that Spencer Pollard thing. And it's like, that's it. That's exactly what I think. And that's what I'm going to start doing. It's like, especially if I'm going to start, if I'm going to put a pilot in the cockpit, I'll spend some time on the pilot, maybe the upper, the instrument panel, but the rest of it, it just may be just like one solid color, and nobody will ever be the wiser,
Right.
Just because I'm to the stage now where I'm more interested in getting to the outside and doing the paint and the panels and the decals, or spraying it on or whatever. So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
So to do or do not. To do or do not. That is a question. It depends.
It depends. It depends.
Gray area.
Every time I say that, I think it makes me think of accountants and lawyers, because they say that all the time.
Yeah, it depends. Well, it depends
you
on
ask
what.
an accountant, well, can I write this off or not? Well, it depends. And it's like, what do you mean it depends? Well, and lawyers are the same way, well, is this illegal or not? Well, it depends. But
oh man.
But
yeah. So there you go. I think that
I'm as far as aircraft goes, I've said this here recently, I've decided I'm going closed canopy, even on my fighters and stuff, because, well, for a couple of reasons, I'm really I've come full circle, and now I'm kind of back to wanting to really go for realism,
right,
as opposed to showing off what I can do with weathering products or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying.
So as a matter of fact, yesterday I spent a lot of time looking at natural metal finishes, because if you look and you see what people are doing, and it's beautiful stuff, don't take it wrong, but pretty much everybody that you see that's doing a natural metal finish now on an aircraft, they're doing a gloss black with the chrome, and it's like super shiny, and it's like, it looks great. Okay, don't get me wrong, it looks great, but that's not an operational aircraft on an airfield in France 70 years ago.
Nope.
Could it be a modern polished up warbird? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so with that thought in mind, as far as the interior detail and stuff, when I go to I'm tilting back here, when I go to if you go, you know, you look at flight line photos, unless an aircraft's on alert or something, it's closed up.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's an impression that people have that, you know, they were flying these aircraft every day, and they weren't. You know, like during the Battle of Britain or something like that, yeah, but you know, typically, I mean, that aircraft might sit there on the flight line for 2 or 3 days before it flies again. So they're not going to leave it wide open. You know, do you leave your car in the driveway with the windows down all night every night? No, you don't do that.
What?
You know, I mean, I could where I live. It's not going to get stolen, but you know, I'm going to come out and there's going to be a coyote or a skunk or
yeah,
a neighbor's cat or a chicken or who knows what in the car, you know, in the morning. So,
oh, man.
So that's kind of where I'm going in my head. So that's influencing how much I'm going to put in the cockpit. And maybe I'm just being lazy.
Hey man, what you want out of the kid changes with time, man. It's like I was all about trying all these weathering techniques and stuff like that, and it's got to the point where it's like that's another subject. We're gonna put that one on the list for sure.
We should do one on that because you know, I'm not against it at all. It's just I'm constantly mutating. You know, I'm constantly changing what I think and you know, it's like that old saying, it's like if you're the same person you were 30 years ago, you might want to put some thought into that and wonder why that is.
That's
if you haven't
right.
changed in 30 years, you're missing out on something.
Is amiss. Yep.
Right. But anyway,
all right. Well, I think we've both got about the same kind of point of view on this one, to do or do not, depending on the circumstances.
Yes. Try or try not. Do or do not. There is no try. Isn't that what Yoda says? What is Yoda say?
Something like that, yes.
Wax on, wax off. No, that's not Yoda.
Yeah. Wrong one. Wrong wise old figure. Cool. All right. Well, that was fun, Jim, again. So until next time, we come back another one of these Chatterbox sessions that lasted a little more than half an hour.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're at an hour, dude. And you know what? It's all staying in because it was a good one. I was
going to say, it's got to be an hour.
Yep. Cool. So anyway, sign off, my friend. And what do you say?
All right. Hey, as usual, take care of the people you love.
And we will see you all later.
All right.